All right, here we are for the final Bassmaster Rapala Fantasy Fishing event of the 2022 season. It all comes down to this event. If you can make it to the top and win some big prizes, or if you're just going to play for one last event prize. Likewise for the anglers, this is their last chance for Rookie of the Year, Angler of the Year, Classic qualifications, requalifications for the Elite Series. Lots on the line for both the Fantasy Fishing players and the Elite Series anglers. Should be an exciting event. Crosse is just down the road for me, so I'm excited to share some of my insight because it's just a little over 2.5 hours from my house, and I've fished it plenty of times. Shout out to Austin Felix for winning the Oahe tournament. Awesome job. He's been on the stream before, from Minnesota, fished against him before. Super good dude. Awesome to see he get his blue trophy hoisted over his head. Oahe wasn't too bad for me. I bumped up to almost 98% in the top 1,000 overall in fantasy fishing. And for Draining the Lake, we made even a little more progress, and we're creaking up towards the top 300. So sitting pretty good. Not sure if we can make up those points in this last event to get into the top 1 or top 10 spot, but it's overall been a very good fantasy fishing season on both games. Checking in on the Beat HellaBass group winners from the last events. Kay Sanchez, you are the winner. I sent you a note through the email in Bassmaster. It bounced back. So if you're watching this, send me some kind of DM on one of my HellaBass socials so I can get you your prize. Nice event, Oahe. Let me know so you can get your Omnia digital gift card. Same thing over at During the Lake. Jay King, your email bounced back as well, so get a hold of me and I'll get you your Omnia gift card. 2 Omnia gift cards still up for grabs in the last event of the season at La Crosse, so make sure you get your lineups in and you can win like these 2. And if you don't feel like you're going to win, you don't want to play, you can always use the code down in the description below to save yourself 15% on some great stuff. Great selection, fast shipping, great customer service at Omni Fishing. They support the channel. They support this video series. So if you want to check them out and support the channel, that would be awesome. And this is the last fantasy fishing event of the year. And if you're looking for future codes, just watch future videos. And there's always going to be a link down in the description below to save you some money at Omnia Fishing. All right, let's talk about La Crosse. La Crosse should be a really good event. This isn't going to be a super slugfest, though. I honestly think like 13, 14, 15, 16 pounds a day is going to be pretty strong. La Crosse has seen a lot of tournament pressure over the last few years, and maybe the fishery's now just a little bit of an ebb. Still really good. There's still tons of bass, lots of good smallmouth, lots of good largemouth, but it's just not quite crazy good like it was a few years back. Overall, the river conditions are pretty good. I think the water levels are right around summer pool, a little below, holding pretty steady. Overall, there's good vegetation, pads, eelgrass, lots of good green grass in the system. The water's pretty clean. There's duckweed mats to be found. Not too much current, but there is still some current in the system. So overall, there should be a lot of things going on. They're going to be end of summer, those fish are going to be starting to think about their fall patterns a little bit. So the fish are going to be a little bit on the move in some areas, and I think that'll make the anglers stay on their toes a little bit throughout this event. So anglers that will be able to kind of adapt and pivot throughout the event will be in good shape. And I think it's going to take a few different things to carry an angler to the victory or even a top 10. I don't think anybody's going to hunker down in one single spot and beat on them for 4 days like Todd Faircloth did back when they first went to Elite Series or first went to La Crosse many years ago. Speaking from personal experience, I actually fished an event here last year, almost the exact same weekend. The Bassmaster Northern Regional Northern Division in 2021 was in these same pools where I took second over 3 days. I led the first 2 days of the tournament, and I had a combination of both current smallmouth fish and slop, duckweed, pad, froggin, largemouth fish that carried me almost to a victory. And I think something similar could be up for grabs this event as well. All right, let's talk about the picks. Starting in Bucket E, a lot of people are looking at Kyle Welcher. He's known as a frog guy, a shallow guy. He could be a very strong pick here. Matt Herron also has a lot of experience here. So does Mike Iaconelli. Dice Kaoiki has a top 10, actually a 4th place in the 2019 Bassmaster Open, so he could be a sneaky pick. But ultimately, even though Ike hasn't had a great year, he's averaged close to, I want to say, a 33rd place average finish. He's been very consistent in his 4 trips, the Bassmaster Elite Series to La Crosse. And I think he's going to want to finish the season strong, and I just think he's got a lot of experience in there. I see him as a fairly safe pick. If he could just get me a top 45 here, I'd be pretty happy with that out of Bucket E. So I'm looking for Ike to rebound. Don't think I've really picked him all year in the main game, and I'm going to pick him this week. He's due for a good tournament. Bucket D, there are a few anglers to look at here. Not a lot of anglers with experience or good finishes. Todd Otten looks like he could have a pretty good matchup here. He did well in a spring FLW tournament, finished in the top 10. Wes Logan obviously has a lot of Alabama River experience, so maybe that current situation, that could fit him well. He may enjoy fishing here as well. And then you got John Crews and Steve Kennedy. Both have 4 appearances each in Bassmaster Elite Series, and they average almost identical, like 31 to 32 to 33 average finishes. Both have like 1 bomb and 3 really solid finishes. For some reason, I would say Crews is probably a safer pick, but for some reason, my gut's telling me that I'm going to go against the grain this week. And normally I tell people not to pick Stephen Kennedy in fantasy fishing because he's very up and down, very volatile, and hard to depend on. But I think this week he's a little bit better value than John Crews, and I'm going to take Stephen Kennedy. And I think because the conditions are going to be changing and it's going to not be a lot about practice, it's going to be about how you adapt to the conditions in the tournament, I think that sets up well for Stephen Kennedy. Bucket C, a lot of people like to pick Brock Mosley, Josh Douglas, Bill Lowen in this event. All could be solid picks. Douglas does have some experience down on lacrosse in team tournaments and some different things like that in the past. So he's familiar with these pools of the river, being from Minnesota. Hunter Shyrock, I think, is a really good picker. He's got a top 20. Last time Elite Series was here in 2019. Frogging and Flipping is definitely his jam, and I think that could prove to be very solid for him, and I think he's going to figure out a pretty good bite. Bill Lowen, usually pretty strong on river systems, so he could be good here. But ultimately, I'm going with Brian Schmidt. While he hasn't been here in an Elite Series event or a Bassmaster Open, he does have some FLW experience, and he did win a May 2017 FLW event here. But just overall, current, Potomac River, grass, things like that, he just understands current and grass, and I think that's going to suit him very well. So I really, really like Brian Schmidt, and that was a pretty easy pick for me in Bucket C. Bucket B, Fighter, Hackney, Christie, all deservingly getting a lot of love in high percentage picks so far in this Bucket B. Fighter did have a second here in one of his events. He's done well in the cross here. He knows the pools pretty well. He could be really good. Bob Downey cut his teeth quite a bit. Spent a lot of time fishing the rivers, some lacrosse, some pools above that, as he was kind of grooming himself to go to the Bassmaster Opens and fish beyond. So he's very comfortable in the river, and he actually likes fishing the river a lot. He could be really good. Pat Schlopper, no stranger to lacrosse. He's fished many a team tournaments and won tournaments and cashed many a checks on these pools. So he should be really strong here as well. Austin Felix has done well in some spring tournaments here. A lot of those are revolving around sight fishing or bed fishing, but coming off a win, I wouldn't count him out. You know, Christie, it should fit his strengths well. There's a lot of good anglers. Prosnick has a second here on the Elite Series. Lots of good anglers to pick from here, but I'm going Caleb Kuffal because he had back-to-back BFL Great Lakes Angler of the Years in 2012 and 2013, which in those years, I think 3 events per season were on these pools. He's definitely won a lot of money. He's got wins here in the BFL. Overall, very strong. He's definitely taken my lunch money in some BFLs down in the river pool, so I think Caleb Kuffal is a really strong pick here, and I think he's going to be right at home. Going to be able to fish his jig, do what he likes to do, go heavy line, heavy braid, and for that reason, I'm going Caleb Kuffal in Bucket B. Bucket A, lots of emphasis on Cox and Polnick. Both very solid picks. Polnick did almost win and probably would have won an event here if he wouldn't have got DQ'd because of some gray lines back when there was no culling on the Mississippi River. But some of his other finishes are very kind of mediocre. So Polnick's definitely a talented angler, and I think he could do very well and could be in contention to win. And he's trying to pull down an Angler of the Year win after he gave up some points at Oahe. So there's definitely some people in the mix. There's about 5 anglers still in the race for Angler of the Year. So, you know, if Polnick can finish in the top, 20, 30, 40, he'll pretty much lock up the OI. But if he slips again and finishes and doesn't make the day 3 cut, there are definitely some anglers that could step in here and take over that AOI title. John Cox being one of them. He would definitely have to fish for the win. Now, he's definitely got the boat for this. He's got the prowess for fishing shallow. So Cox could be a very good pick here. Blaylock has a 14th place finish. There's a couple other anglers with some decent finishes here, but a lot of them are up and down. Guys like Lester, Swindle, and a few others have got some good finishes and some pretty tough finishes on the cross. So although Jay Shakurt doesn't have any Elite Series or Open experience, he did fish that same event that I fished last year where I took second in the Northern Regional. Jay took 7th. So he was there at this exact same time last year fishing a 3-day event with a week of practice. So he should have a pretty good idea, and he's no stranger to the lacrosse pools overall. So for that reason, and his roll of momentum, doing well in the last 3 tournaments, I'm going to go ahead and stick with Jay Shakurt this week to be my Angler A pick. Now let's jump over to Drain the Lake. All right, now based on the number of events I have, dropouts, things like that, we are down to the last 21 anglers that are available to me, and we got to make 8 picks out of those. So we're going to take Dice K, Downey, Heron, Kuffal, Bill Lowen, Jay Shakurit, Pat Schlopper, and Brian Schmidt. Those are our 8 anglers for the Drain the Lake. As far as fantasy fishing tiebreakers, I'm going with 62 pounds, 6 ounces. I think right around that 15 to just over is going to be super strong. If anglers can be in that 14 to 16, maybe pop one day with 17 or 18 pounds, that's going to keep them right where they need to be to finish at the top of this lacrosse event and wrap up this. If you're interested in that event that I fished last year and you kind of want to see a little more of how this tournament's really going to fish for the anglers this week, make sure you check out the day 1 video on the screen coming up right here.